prayer from Woman of God and Mr. Chairman of Amber Coin. Thanks for the statistics that you've put out there. Now, I want to talk about a series of issues as we fight to defend our homeland and to expel La République du Cameroon. It is important for leadership to constantly brief the Ambazonian people on where we are and what we need to do. I know sometimes we watch a liberation struggle like a movie. It is sporadic. It's almost like dotted. There are actions here and there. There are diplomatic utterances here and there. How do those things translate into your freedom? It is critical, as I always tell commanders, when you undertake a military action, the role of leadership is to translate the outcome of that action into political capital that fosters our independence outcome. And so this is the role of leadership, which functions like an architect in the construction of buildings. It is very critical that our people understand that we have reached a level in our struggle which is almost irreversible. And by this, I mean, it is very difficult or nearly impossible for the status quo that existed or the state of affairs that existed to be restored. That means it is nearly impossible to restore the state of Cameroon with Ambazonia as a politically governing entity within Cameroon. It's impossible. So what we need to do at this particular moment is to think seriously on a couple of options. And I will highlight one option which is being peddled constantly is that being peddled by the international system and the enablers in our country. What they are telling us is, now we understand through your effort that there is a problem, and we understand through your sacrifices that Cameroon as designed in 1961 can no longer exist. But we think the best option for you is to reintegrate yourself within Cameroon. That is an external approach being pushed down to us. And Cameroon has basically argued that the design made in 1961 is what is going to exist and there will be no alteration. The second option that we Ambazonians are arguing is that you cannot restore Cameroon as it was before. And for Cameroon to even survive as a state, it needs to get out of Ambazonia. But how does Cameroon get out of Ambazonia? It's the strategic wisdom behind a strategy of liberation. How does our pressure in terms of defense help us to achieve independence? Now, this is very crucial, what I'm about to say here. This is very crucial. And I said this before, one of the things Cameroon took away from us was our identity, our ability to organize. It took away the land. If you look at Biafra, Cameroon took away, Nigeria took away the land, but it didn't take away Biafran identity. Everywhere there is a Biafran, there is Biafra. But everywhere you find an Ambazonia, there might be Ambazonia in their home, but they are Cameroonian in their mindset, in their gatherings, and some of the things they do. There are critical foundations for independence, critical foundations. Apart from having your flag, having your anthem, which are symbols of nationalism and symbols of difference. There are critical things we need to begin to do to show that we are independent. And that's why I thank the AGOVC and our forces on the ground for having started to build these alternative institutions. Because this is a tragedy. What if you completely killed all Cameroon forces on the ground, but you fail to erect alternative indigenous Ambazonian institutions that our people can believe in? Where do you think our people will turn if they need electricity? Where do you think they will turn if they need policing, they need security? Where do you think they will turn if they need water? Where do you think they will want to go to school? That is why the struggle for independence is not simply to dismantle an existing political, economic, and social system that has kept you under occupation, but is the ingenuity to be able to show how you can create alternative systems that your people can rely on. And that's why when we talk about stabilization and consolidation, it's critical, it's deep, extremely deep. And I would like Ambazonians to take note. We basically control Momo, and we have a lot of influence in Lebialem. Our forces move. Today they are playing a competition. I was watching them on video. There are football matches going on. We have thousands of students in community schools. When we say Cameroon is defeated, it's real. The only reason we are still having these trouble, whether you are still fighting or not, is because we haven't modeled alternative institutions that our people can rely on. And as I addressed soldiers yesterday, they need to organize themselves on the ground and take control and begin to create these little institutions that our people can depend on, begin to carry out activities that show the people that they are the new bosses in town. If you fight for independence and you still rely on the educational system of the occupier, you are still as dependent as you were before you started the resistance. If your taxation system is still being imposed by the occupier, how independent are you? If you have nothing to show for as an institution you control, you are still dependent on electricity supply, water supply, policing and security from the enemy. So when you dismantle these institutions of the enemy, what do you replace it with? Chaos? We need consolidation and stabilization. There will still be offensive action, which will be predominant, but the role of leadership is also not to simply see fighting as a new way of life, but to translate little outcomes in fighting into political capital that advances the objective of political, economic, and social independence. Showcase a model that works and ask the international system, to recognize that model. Showcase an educational system that is more compelling, a curriculum of education that makes students an asset. And that curriculum becomes a pride not only of your own nation, but the occupier itself. So it is critical for us, as we fight, as we attend these meetings, we should have a broader mindset on the notion of independence. And I invite all of you to remain committed as we push through this last phase of our resistance. And this last phase is even more critical than the first three phases. Why? Because you are not simply trying only to dismantle existing institutions, you are trying also to build alternatives. You are trying to police your streets to make sure that when parents go to bury their family members, they can do so in secure environment. When teachers want to teach, they have a curriculum of education that guarantees the outcome that, you know, makes those children more beneficial to themselves and to our society. And this takes me to the issue of our refugees. Now, let me say something. Throughout history, refugees have been exploited, either by human rights advocates, human rights institutions, political leaders, democracy advocates, and even opposition parties within the countries that these refugees have been running away from. In a refugee conundrum, there is the push and the pull factor. The push factor is the condition under which the future refugee lived under and could not survive. The pull factor is the destination. What makes a refugee choose a particular country? Is it proximity, simply an aspect of geography? Or is it where the family members, is it where they have the likelihood of being accepted as refugees? Are there other considerations that are in the mindset of refugees? Are there security consideration? For example, in Europe, you have what you call the third party, the third country rule system, which is designed under the Dublin Convention. Wherever you land first, that's where you have to seek asylum. But I successfully argued in many circumstances that an Ambazonian who lands in France does not have the obligation to seek asylum in France, because France is almost like La République. And some of these asylees have been accepted, you know, to jump jurisdiction and move into other ones. So there is always the tendency to exploit refugees for political advantages, for human rights advocacy, for all sorts of stuff, to show that there is a conflict. So we put the refugees as poster people. Some have even argued that you should not release prisoners, because if prisoners are released, it means the struggle is over. Outdated, mundane, and selfish. I have believed very sincerely that the refugees who are in Biafra land today and across in Nigeria are not in security. The basis of asylum application is the threat or the fear of one that makes you to escape your country. And if that threat follows you into another country, one of the 4 pillars of the UNHCR is the concept of resettlement. All Ambazonian refugees in Biafra and in Nigeria are not safe. They have to be resettled. And I have assigned Mr. Akoson Raymond as the head of the Human Rights and Humanitarian Services of the AGOVC to work on a strategy on how we can get all of these refugees out of this insecurity. It is possible because the data speaks for itself. As I said, last year alone, more than 6,300 DRC citizens were resettled. Eritreans are still being resettled how many years after independence? Syrians are being resettled. And what about vulnerable women and children? You know, I mean, living in squalor, under the threat, the constant threat of deportation because Cameroon seeks to convince Nigeria that by allowing these refugees in there, it gives us a bad image. As I said last time, I sent an audio to the governor of Cross River. That was about 8 months ago. I still have that audio. When they held a meeting and said Cameroon was now safe and these refugees should go back. And I reminded him, listen, we are one people. We have, Ijagam people in Ambazonia, Ijagam in Biafra land. And when you say Cameroon is safe, you're talking about another country, because Cameroon may be safe, Ambazonia is not. And I appeal to him to reconsider and to know that history is going to hold him responsible for having sent back people into situations where they are killed. So we need to work extremely very hard. And I am happy with the preliminary report that Mr. Akosong has presented. We will work extremely very hard to make sure that our refugees are resettled. And that goes without saying that we are still grateful for all the Ambazonians who have been supporting them and making sure that they can improve on their lives in Biafra. So let Ambazonians know that we don't need victims to showcase a compelling reason why we fight for independence. But secondly, our refugees must reject, the tag of victimhood. They must reject it. I was watching a speech made by the OGC when she visited a refugee camp. That's a long time ago. What I said then is the same thing I said a few days ago. Refugees are heroes. Former Secretary of State of the United States, Madeleine Albright, was a refugee from the Czech Republic. The former secretary under Nixon in 1972, Henry Kissinger, was a refugee from Germany. One of the greatest mathematicians in the world was a refugee from Nigeria. Refugees are assets. They are pace-setters. They are game changers. Yes, countries have put refugees under difficult circumstances. Refuse it, reject it. You are heroes of causes that have altered the lives of millions of people. And the millions of refugees who have changed, the way that things work in the world. And I want you to see yourself as freedom fighters, as those who have escaped their homeland to make sure that they can find opportunities to make that homeland a better place. The refugees who left refugee camps from Uganda to liberate Rwanda from the scourge of ethnic cleansing of the Habyarimana government. Those who crossed borders, left refugee camps and went to Kosovo. I know it's difficult in refugee camps. As I said, I've been in one. Mental trauma. But it's the mindset that you have that will either make or mar your life as a refugee and alter or keep the situation the same in the country that you fled from. So our policy to resettle our refugees is to ensure that wherever they are not perpetual victims or liabilities, but that they can be an asset to themselves, their families, and our country. The same issue goes to our prisoners of war. Prisoners are a symbol of why people fight. And one of the things that the Maryland cartel did was to attack the foundation of our resistance. When you attack prisoners, when you criminalize prisoners, those who are still fighting and who might become prisoners tomorrow begin to question why they fight. The reason why prisoners are classified as POWs is to deny the state that has put them in jail to use its own domestic law to try them, because they are a symbol of resistance. And I ask our prisoners, refuse to take comfort in jail. Refuse to take comfort in jail. Refuse to adjust refuse to settle. Every day in your mind is how to get out of that jail, how to tunnel yourself out of that jail. You are a fighter, not a victim. How is your relationship with the God? Have you just conformed and become a friend to the looters, murderers, and jailers? You must be an agitator wherever you are confined. And I ask you to refuse to see yourself as victims. See yourself as heroes. Make common law criminals look at you as an example for why people should live. And make jail a hell for the enemy. Make the superintendent also a prisoner. All of these conditions are hard. Being in jail takes away your liberty, your judgment, and everything. But to go to jail for 8 million people is glorifying. And we appreciate your sacrifice. And that's why we still continue to fight. So you must make jail a place of resistance, a place of nationalism, not a place to quarrel over partisan logic, over food, over money, not a place to sit and exploit fighters on the ground. It's a place to sit and to be able to encourage those still fighting. The next issue I would like to talk about is our alliance with Biafra. As Tapang wrote today, if you were given a choice between Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, and Cameroon and Biafra, which will you make as a friend? It was an important rhetorical question. For the past 4.5 years, Nigeria has been a virtual enemy. But first, let me remind Nigeria of the following. There are members in the Nigerian Senate, we are aware. There are members of the Buhari government, we are aware. They are sponsoring Boko Haram. There are governors that are sponsoring Boko Haram. The president of Nigeria has been informed of these persons, but he has refused to take action. Why? Because the strategy is to turn Nigeria into an Islamic republic. That's the strategy. And that's what has given rise to the new phase of the Biafran resistance, where Fulani headsmen can simply take over in the same way the Bulu Republic has taken over Victoria, has taken over Boya, is taking over our land across different places using its buying power. That's why the Biafrans have risen, because they have used Boko Haram and the Fulanis to basically take over Nigeria. We won a case in the Nigerian High Court. Nigeria refused to enforce that judgment. Instead, what did Nigeria do? It set up a spy ring with Cameroon to arrest refugees, rendition them to Cameroon. The same man who oversaw the kidnapping and rendition of Siseko is the same man who oversaw the kidnapping and rendition of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. The man from Borno State, a state that has been taken over by Boko Haram, and he cannot even go to his own village. Nigeria is bankrupt, more bankrupt than Cameroon. It cannot survive. And that's why you see they are doing this public relations campaign, a conference of the deaf, to threaten Ambazonia. Ambazonia, no one can threaten us anymore. And let me remind Nigeria and Cameroon, we are an independent state. We have never declared war on anyone. We've never attacked anyone. And we have a right as an independent state to seek and to enter into alliances that fosters our political, economic, and social aspirations, as well as Nigeria has its right to enter into an alliance with Cameroon and with Boko Haram. It's up to them. I know our people are confused. Is this alliance beneficial? It is. It is the only beneficial thing that has helped Ambazonia, even before we entered into it. It is the only foundation of our existence. And make no mistake, we shall never and should never be seen as traitors to any people. So I want to assure every Ambazonian that this alliance is strong, this alliance is beneficial for Ambazonia. However Biafra makes of it, it is up to Biafra. We don't prescribe to Biafra what they have to do. Take note, tomorrow, La République will be gone. It's not then that you start to scramble for friends. The logic of our liberation diplomacy now is not simply to showcase the reason why we need to be independent. It's not simply to showcase why Cameroon is bad. It's beginning to build the friends of tomorrow, the economic partners of tomorrow, the giants of direct investment of tomorrow, the countries where we have cultural exchanges. America is not simply that powerful because of its economy. It's because it has a marketable culture. Do you know what it would mean for our people in Manu if they could open a big market across into Biafra where millions of tons of their arrow are sold? Do you know what it would mean to us if you would be able to reap the benefit of the direct investment of millions of Biafrans in our territory? Do you think the Yorubas will invest? Do you think the Fulanis in the north will not think about Niger? Or are you expecting the investment from Cameroon? Everything that Ethiopia did after Eritrea became independent was to make sure it cuts off investment. Everything that Sudan did was to fuel conflict in South Sudan. We're going to be your partners tomorrow. We're going to be the only neighbor that stood with you, that thought of you, that gave the basis for your existence. Nigeria, Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea. The foundation of the alliances we build today will be critical after independence. And I know this. Sako did not get up one morning and say, I'm going to hold an international press conference to condemn this alliance. He was coached, he was pushed to it by Nigeria. That we know. There are things that we know. There are things that I know. They didn't get up one morning and say, we want to hold, a press conference after we signed an alliance over how many months ago, and then they just came up today. The reason is, after the Biafran lockdown, Nigeria became jittery, and we are aware that contacts were made and they were pushed to it for a kickback. I don't want you to take this little issue as the main subject of it, but sometimes when you see me forcefully come out, it's because I know things, I've seen things that I don't want to fill the space there with with more issues that would lead to discord. You are not only the hardliner, you are the only reason Ambazonia is free. You have to defend. Now, let me say this to you, and you have to take it seriously. Because the forces against me are powerful. I may not be around tomorrow. But take note, the only reason we will be free is because of you. It's not like some of them don't believe in independence. But one Cameroon is also an option. You and myself, there is only one option, and that's Ambazonia. And that's why we guard it. That's why we protect it, we preserve it. And that's why they disrupt it. They attack the foundation of your strategy to consolidate, to stabilize. They attack the foundation of the leadership, which is critical for the ideology, for the vision, for the mission, for the belief system, for the steadfastness. The foundation of a liberation struggle is not the amount of guns you carry. It's rooted in the ideology. The power to keep the masses for 20 years fighting for a destination that they are unsure of. And when you say you are the vanguard, I want you to remain the vanguard. Never be disillusioned. We have built the most powerful force on the ground, undisputable. The fundamentals are good. We control vast territory, unopposed. And we have a plan. We have a plan. It's not a movie. Stick with the plan and the strategy. You got up one morning, La Republic forces were dying. Barracks were being taken. You got up one morning, Ambazonia was ungovernable. Political power of La Republic delegitimized. You got up one day, we were an international contender. Remember, when I said they will come to us, these words are emblematic. Don't forget them. Remain committed to our forces. Remain committed to my leadership. It will not fail you. Remain committed to the vision. Beware of agitators. And when I mean commitment, every month we will raise money until the last forces of Cameroon are out. Every month. Ground Zero does it every Monday. And I thank you all for having remained confident. We will build a plural society where there will be many formations, organizations. Your enemies sometimes, those who criticize and condemn you, open a way for you to become better. So don't mind about criticism and condemnation. You have a leadership that is incorruptible, politically, financially, that is steadfast, unwavering, and that has a plan, comprehensive plan. On the 1st of October, you will celebrate your Independence Day. I want you to take pride in your Independence Day. Remember the theme, project power, fly your flag, sing your anthem. You are free. Your job is to defend that freedom. Make sure your family, your friends know that you come from Ambazonia, and make sure they also know you fought for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CIC. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you have been doing. You put your life on hold and you are fighting. You are a soldier. Thank you so much. And we are very, very lucky to have you as our leader for your encouragement and everything that you are doing to motivate us. And we'll only move forward. Shake no day. We are still waiting on the day that you give that hard note speech in pidgin. That's when you know. Thank you so much.